watching Calf Kick Sports Podcast. Tim.
Good afternoon, folks, and thanks for joining us. We're back with Jac Morton after his big fight where he was raising money for cancer. Jac, how you doing today, sir?
I'm feeling good. Yeah, feeling strong.
So
Yeah.
tell us, you were raising money for cancer as a first time MMA fighter. How did the fight go? How did you feel about the fight? Give us the full play-by-play and all that good stuff.
So I got there at 12 o'clock on Sunday and didn't fight till 6. So there was a long time of kind of watching the cage getting set up, the people milling about, or the fighters getting warmed up, stretching off. There's a little bit of nerves kind of creeping in there. Then the people watching started to filter in. The VIP tables filled up, and the guys that had come to support me from Game Fight give me a nudge to let me know they were there, and that really kind of settled me and kind of was like, yeah, it's okay. I'm not here on my own. There are people in the crowd that are going to be shouting for me. You know, I've got that support network there. And then came to the fight. So just before I went on, I was feeling a little bit nerves, but not like scared. I think the thing that was more worrying me for me was actually stepping out in front of like a crowd of like 300-400 people that were all shouting, and by that point we're pretty wasted.
They were bloodthirsty.
Oh, they were, yeah, they were a bloke stood behind the guys just shouting, "Just punch him, you fat."
And you're like, I know, me too. I feel the same way.
So obviously, yeah, because we're a bunch of middle-aged men. We're not exactly walking around with six packs. We are, we probably should have been wearing sports bras, to be fair.
Come on. It was a good event, though. It was a good time. But it was interesting
fantastic
to see, because from the video I saw, it's weird to see like people in tuxedos on one side and then all of the t-shirt, like affliction t-shirts around the cage.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the fighters could wear whatever we wanted, so like we wanted, but it was a proper like black tie event. And I think the idea of that is that it kind of stops the crowd from getting a little bit too unruly.
Oh, yeah.
But there was definitely some people who'd had like way too much to drink. There was quite a few women in some very, very high-end dresses doing some very un-high-end things.
Hey, that's part of the game. You're in that sphere now. You're gonna have women flying at you all the time, signing autographs on body parts. You know how it goes now, right?
Oh no, they weren't interested in me. They were just too busy trying not to throw up on me.
Yeah. So you went through the fight. So you trained for weeks and weeks and weeks. First MMA fight. How did the fight go in your eyes?
Watching it back, I can see where I went wrong.
Right.
And I think in that moment of the fight, there's the first leg kick that comes in, and it's heavy.
Right.
I felt it, but it didn't hurt. And it was like after that moment, it was like, right, I'm in this. And
it was like something switched.
I'm in this now. Like I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna punch as heavy as I can, and I'm gonna try push him as far back as I can, get him up against this cage. Started off with the jabs, and he just I think I landed one or two, and then he just immediately wanted to take down. And then all the stuff that I'd learnt and knew I should be doing, I didn't. So I didn't sprawl. He ended up taking my back, and I was like, right, I've got my arms in here. He's not got any hooks in or anything. I'm just going to keep in turtle position, breathe for a second, ground myself. Right, he's climbed up my back. He's trying to get one hook in. All right, this is the perfect time to just try flip him. Flipped him, managed to get on the front, got a good chin strap in, but could not get a choke in. And then we kind of sprawled around a little bit. And then that was it. It was like the first round was over. It gone within a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
And the second round, I was like, right, I'm going to come in. He clearly didn't want to stand up with me. I'm going to force him to side stand up with me, going heavy again. And he caught my leg on one of the jabs. We went down. He got into a crucifix position. And there's probably about 20-30 seconds of just like me trying to work my way out of that. But there's a moment of, I need to get out of this. How the hell am I going to do that? I can't pull my arm out. Like my glove's catching on his legs, and he's not letting it come through.
Yeah.
And then it kind of dawned on me that I can flip him using the cage. So managed to flip him like that little short segment.
Mhm.
That's like a really nice highlight reel. The 30 seconds around it is really boring.
Don't worry about that. Do you think they did a scouting report on you of like they read the interview where you said you had kickboxing experience? So they were like, okay, make sure that you take this guy down. Because it seemed like they were just like, man, he's a kickboxer. Make sure he's on the ground the whole fight.
Yeah, he really wanted to kind of like take it to the ground. He got me in an armbar. It wasn't locked on. It was
Right.
tight, and like I could feel the pressure, but there's nothing on my elbow.
Right.
And it was just genuinely just me trying to think of what I should be doing, how I should be doing it, and where I should be going. But because I'm an amateur, like or I'm like definitely bush league, that process is taking me a while. And the referee he stopped it like way too early, in my opinion. But from his eyes, I wasn't actively defending the position. I was trying to get myself in a place where I could lift his leg over my head and then move into his guard.
Yeah.
But, bush league, it's going to take us a while to be like, all right, now I'm in the right position. Everything's right. Now I'm going to move. Rather than it just being a quick thing. So, yeah, as soon as the fight ended, I felt gutted that the referee had stopped it. But, it's for charity, and it is a like less than amateur event. So they've got to be cautious. So I can't be angry at the ref for doing that.
No, and that's fair. That's fair. So what new perspective did you walk away from now that you've spent some time in the cage and you've left the cage? Like, what did you come away with a different perspective on MMA fights?
I did. I've watched a lot of them though when they've gone to the ground, and they just like, it was after starting jiu-jitsu, going to the ground looked more interesting because you were watching for different things. Like you're looking for arm position and stuff like that. If you're not interested in grappling, when they hit the ground, it's just like, oh, it's just two sweaty men hugging. Like they're just having a break and a bit of a breather. They're just waiting until they can punch the other one.
Yeah.
You don't quite understand the mental chess game that you're playing. From stepping into that cage, like I want to do it again. I can't. I can't lie. It was such a buzz. It was a massive rush, and just hearing people shouting and the cheering for both me and the other guy, like it was huge.
No, what the post-fight bliss? That's a very real thing. Like, is it a relief? Is it happiness? What does the post-fight bliss kind of feel like?
It was so strange. Because I think because of like, I don't want to use the kind of like participation trophy thing, because that's what I got. I got a participation trophy. Let's face it.
I've got a few from my boxing fights as well, and I didn't win any of them, but I still have the medals. Anyway, go ahead.
You know what I mean? But it is a scary thing to do. You're stepping into a cage with somebody who is potentially going to try knock your head off, which is that's what the other guy was facing. He was stepping in with somebody who was like, right, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to throw my hands as heavy as I possibly can, and I'm going to try sit him on his ass.
Yeah.
And then after the fight, I'm going to shake hands with him, give him a hug, tell him it was a great match, because it was. He did exactly what he came out to do. He even turned around to me and said, "Look, I didn't think I had that armbar on. I don't know why the ref stopped it."
That's saying a lot.
And he was up for going the rest of the round and into the next one. Like he was a good competitor. I can't knock the guy.
Feel a little cheated that you didn't get the full fight, maybe, though.
I do feel a little bit cheated. I'm not going to compare myself to Jared Gordon, but it's not on that level. But I do feel like the decision wasn't right.
So there is one thing, interesting thing, that when it comes to things like jiu-jitsu and collegiate wrestling or Olympic wrestling, it tends to be people watching it are people who had previously participated in it. There's not a lot of people, if you haven't participated in wrestling or jiu-jitsu, watching it is sometimes kind of hard. But now you've gone through it. You've gotten much better at jiu-jitsu. You get the ground game a lot more, right?
Oh, yeah, I get the ground game. I've got so much more appreciation for it. And honestly, going through the MMA training and working with Les on the wrestling side of stuff, I didn't quite understand that wrestler's mindset going into it. I just genuinely thought they were just like roided up meatheads, if I'm honest. Like there's so much aggression from that moment of go that you're like, that has to be coming from somewhere that's extra hormonal. but it's genuinely terrifying. Like the wrestling side of things, it has to be go 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 go, and you can see, like, if you've been training for it for a year, 5 years, that's where that aggression comes from, and that like instant switching it on, because it is from the moment they say go, that other guy's trying to put you on your back, and you have to be quick.
Well,
And you just,
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, you don't get that in any other sport other than wrestling, really.
Oh yeah.
And I can see why that's dominating so much in MMA, because you look over the sort of previous matches before it kind of came to the forefront, is they are much slower. They're kind of about feeling your opponent out with strikes, whereas as soon as the wrestlers come in, they're like, even regardless of whether you're throwing that punch or not, I'm coming through and we're going down.
Well, for centuries, people have argued over what the dominant martial art is. Is it some of the kung fu based martial arts where we led to karate and things like that? Is it more judo martial arts? It turns out wrestling is probably the strongest martial art, because philosophically, if you put someone on their back, they can't hit you. Like, it's a very simple idea when you see it, of like, of course wrestling is the strongest martial art, right?
It's for me, it's obviously situational. If you're within a rule set of like the cage, wrestling is going to be incredibly dominant, and the mindset and the training and everything that goes into it is going to be incredibly dominant. If you're in an environment, say, a little bit more like karate combat, where they don't have the cage, and it's a 45-degree ramp on the edge of it, you take somebody down onto that ramp, you're sliding down it, you've immediately lost a lot of the advantage that you gained from taking them down. And I think it's more situational, really.
It's more more situational than just saying, like, this is clearly better. It depends.
But that's kind of why the debate continues. There's no definitive answer, because everyone's like, oh well, there's this loophole over here, but if you use this.
Yeah, I was very into, like, talking about my friends who were in judo or my friends who were in karate, and I was in boxing as a teenager, about what is the best martial art. And my boxing coach was just said, like, don't do any of this in a street fight. Like, it just doesn't work. There's not a good martial art. It's always, like you said, depends where you are, depends what you're doing, right?
Exactly. And I think you've got to kind of look at the rule set of whatever you're taking on, and that rule set's going to dictate what's going to perform the best.
And then, Jack, this is the problem. Every show we get so off track, man. We get what
we both just take it off on tangents, don't we?
I know, it's great. But let me ask you. So this was to raise money for cancer. You raised well over 200 pounds for cancer with just you personally. How did the entire event go with their fundraising effort?
So the entire event raised £12,300, I think.
Ooh, that's oh my God.
And that's just the Leeds event. So bearing in mind, they've got another one coming up next April as well. Like, the Ultra MMA as a whole is doing some fantastic work to raise this money. They're doing it across, I think this weekend they had like 3 or 4 events going on. And like, I think I've got to wait about 10 days, and I should be able to see the photos that the photographer took from the actual fight. So I might actually get some decent highlight reel photos rather than mobile phone from a massive distance. And I think they had a GoPro set up in the cage as well, so there may be some better footage for me to review and cry over all my many mistakes that I made.
But taking that stuff, I've talked to professional fighters, and they go right back to the tape, win or lose. Now you can go to the tape, because you told me you're going to jiu-jitsu competition quite soon here, right?
Yeah, so I've signed up to the BJJ All Stars in Yorkshire, for the beginners one, in the 91.5 kilos. Okay. So it's going to keep me thin over Christmas, because I've got to drop half a kilo. So I'm going to be easing off on the chocolate. You know, maybe going to try fitting a bit of cold cardio. What
is this for? This is less than 4 weeks away. Half a kilo in 4 weeks. I guess you can do it, but it's Christmas time. That's the tough part.
It's Christmas time. It might be, you know, like one of those like severe cuts that I'm going to have to do on the morning, and then just like rehydrate straight away afterwards just to make weight. But I think I should be all right. It's, half a kilo is not too much to drop.
So I think the most important part, though, is that coming away from all this is now a lifestyle change that sounds like it's permanent.
Yeah, it is. I think the kind of beauty of doing this is, and I realized from booking or signing up, should I say, to Ultra MMA, is that kept me focused for, at least 3 months running up to it. I was really focused on making sure that I was getting fitter, improving myself, and it said more about me as an individual and what motivates me and what can keep me ticking over is that, right, I need to have these 10 post goals that I'm setting, and they need to be immovable events that I can't just be like, get to a week out of it and go, nah, I'm not doing that. And the fact that some of these events, they're not cheap. I mean, a lot of people, that I've spoken to have complained about the prices of stuff. But equally, it's a commitment thing. If you're willing to pay that amount of money to enter, you're going to show up. And there's not just you that if you don't show up, you're not letting just yourself down. It's the other guys that are competing as well, because you don't want to be in a category with 2 people.
No.
Like, it's nice to win a medal, but you want to win a medal. You don't want to be given one because you've got second place and there's only 2 people in your category, so you've got silver.
Been there. I get that.
Or you've got gold in no gi because nobody turned up.
I would take it. Yeah, I'm all over that.
I don't know. I want stuff to have a bit more of a value to it, and I think I'm at a stage in my life where I'd rather be like, showing my kids that I've worked for something or I've overcome something to achieve something, rather than just being like, here's a medal that I got, and they're like, well, what did you do? And you're like, oh well, the other bloke like got beaten in gi, so he decided to go home.
Yeah. So a jiu-jitsu competition coming up in the next few weeks here. It sounds like you might be stepping back in the cage, though. It sounds like you're going to sign up for more fights, for more MMA fights. I mean,
for me, it is. I'm up for it, and I want to do it. I know I've got a hell of a lot to learn, and I know I've got more training to do, and it's a case of just working with my coach, and as soon as Les gives me the nod and says, yeah, you're ready, that's when I know I'm going to be ready. Because it's a different ballpark. Stepping into like amateur cage fighting to doing ultra MMA, there's going to be a large skill gap. And chances are the guy that I might be fighting might have already had 2 or 3 amateur fights under his belt, or he might have, a collegiate wrestling career. That I'm going to be up against. It's not going to be some other guy who, plays 5-a-side on a weekend and as a couple of beers, he's going to be almost at semi-professional amateur, like semi-professional fighter level, and that I need to have the skill set in there to do that. I need to be able to deal with the pressure that comes from it, especially from, he might be raining strikes down on me, and you've got to have that moment of clarity of, right, this hurts, but this is where we're going with it, and this is what we're trying to achieve in this second. And I need to speed up with those decisions as well. Otherwise, the referee will be like, you're not defending that position.
Yeah, it's tough. It is hard to handle that stuff in the moment, the things that you've learned to kind of slow your brain down, because it's nerve-wracking. And you were there several hours before the event. Like I feel like next time that won't be the case where you're 6 hours, where you arrive 6 hours early, because I imagine that's quite nerve-wracking just waiting for things to happen, right?
It is, but I think I mean, I don't have experience of any kind of like the professional bouts, but I imagine it's very similar to like the guys on the undercard. In that they'll want to they'll get there early, or if you're traveling to an event, and I've had it with tournaments when I was younger, is you would get there like an hour, 2 hours before, and then you sit about for an hour, and then the competition would start, but your category might not be till halfway through the day, so you've already been there for like 3-4 hours before you're even stepping onto the mat to compete. So it is, I think, at an amateur level, I think waiting about is probably something that I'm going to have to learn to deal with and find a way of actually processing it that's constructive and not trying to wear myself out beforehand or get myself too worked up. But even that being said, at professional level, those guys must go through some serious mental gymnastics, like sat back in the changing rooms, because they'll be able to hear the crowd, the music, the seeing like some of their other teammates if they've lost. Like some of them get like pretty messed up.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder Boy's face. Like if you were on after him, for example, and Wonder Boy had come in with his messed up face, like you'd be terrified stepping out there. Like it'll do stuff to you. There's no doubt about it.
The sport's very unforgiving in a lot of ways, because the consequences are you get kicked in the head when you make a mistake.
I think that's the beauty of it. It's instant feedback.
It's instant feedback. Absolutely. Go on, tell us a little bit more.
It is instant feedback. Like you know when you've made a mistake. And I think what gives martial artists and the kind of lifestyle that they lead strength is the fact that they can take that instant feedback, process it, and then action something really quickly, because they understand that no decision is worse than any decision. Like it's absolutely fine to make the wrong decision, but indecision's just going to hurt more. And I'm still at the indecision stage.
But let's look back at the accomplishments, where you went from, like you were talking about before this match, you said I was out of shape, I wasn't healthy. Now you've done an MMA fight, you raised money for cancer, you've made a permanent life change, and you're a much healthier individual. There's huge accomplishments that you've made just in the last few months. Like reflect back. This is
I'm under no illusion that it is a victory, even if it wasn't inside the cage. I think it's just my mindset of right, like let's move on to the next thing and let's improve and keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that's kind of fits nicely with martial arts in itself, in that you're not necessarily satisfied. You're always trying to improve, trying to learn, and want to get better.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I highly recommend to anybody to take up any form of martial arts. I mean, even if you don't want to get hurt, take up Taekwondo.
Sure. Is your Just Giving link, if people still want to donate to the cause, is that still active, or is that wrapped up pretty soon? What's going on there?
I think that wraps up in a couple of days, because the fight was on Sunday, and we're now on Wednesday, so I think it probably closes maybe Thursday or Friday this week.
Yeah, that's like tomorrow. Oh, is it still January? No. You know what? I'll put the link down below. If it's active, donate to it. If it's not active, well done. Well done to everything. Jac, great job getting all this done. It's a great message, and it's a great thing that you've been doing. Last word goes to you. Shout out who you need to shout out, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I really want to shout out all the guys that came to support me from Game Fight. Like having your voices in that crowd made a huge difference. And yeah, I'm looking forward to training with you over Christmas, and hopefully we'll bring home some medals in the competition in January.
That's right. Thanks so much for your time, sir.
Thank you.